Another way that we check for understanding is through questioning. And of course there are lots of different ways in which we ask questions of students, but especially for the purposes of this course, we've spent a lot of time talking about text-dependent questions and the importance of text-dependent questions that cause students to go back into the text to find answers. We want to, as part of our questioning repertoire, construct questions that do cause students to go back into the text, to be able to find evidence to support their claims, and so on. What's especially important around text-dependent questions is thinking about the elicitation questions that we ask, to be able especially to do first checks for understanding around the content, ways in which we ask them to elaborate in order to be able to get more information from them. Very often, especially with younger children, they'll give us answers that are really kind of too short or too sparse for us to really know what it is that they know and don't know. So elaboration questions are intended especially to draw out more information from them. And then clarification questions as well that especially drive students back into the text. We'll start with elicitation questions. Elicitation questions, in large part, you can kind of think of these almost as like the 5 W's and the how questions. They tend to be especially fact-based questions. There are ways in which we can check for their initial understanding about the content that we've been teaching or the content that they've been reading about. And there are lots of different ways that we can formulate those elicitation questions. These are sometimes called reproductive questions, because what students are doing is they're reproducing or they're recalling or restating information that was in the text or was in the teaching that was going on. And there are, of course, lots of examples of these kinds of elicitation or reproductive questions. We're asking them to reproduce the information. Asking them questions like, for example, who was the first president of the United States, after we've done a short reading about George Washington, would be an appropriate elicitation question.